Hi, I'm THIA BELDEN, and I'm a sacred living coach and counselor who offers individual sessions. I call them sacred soul sessions that help you extricate things that are blocking you in your life so that you can free them up, release them, and live fully and expansively as your higher, more divine self. So the first thing I want to talk about is who would be a good candidate for a sacred soul session. And I actually would say most everyone. Everyone can benefit because we all, as shared humanity, have this thousands of years movement into our density duality patterns in planet Earth, where we have cultivated a nature that is more survival oriented and not really thriving oriented. And as a result, we've all been disconnected from our source. We call that going under the veil. We call that our disconnection from grace. But that happened as a collective a long time ago. And all of our ancestors and in our current times, we have all come into this space where we are not experiencing ourselves directly as spiritual beings and all the power and beauty and divineness of that. We have to take that journey of remembering that. So as children, we are coming in much more connected to the divine, and the remembering of that is just inherently within us. But we meet our parents and humans around us who for thousands of years have been living in these dense patterns where they have forgotten their unconditionally loving divine nature. And as we bump up against that as children, we feel discomfort. And when we bump up against the lack of the unconditional love, we feel pain and a lack of fulfillment. When we actually experience it in a very abusive way, where there is a response from somebody who has not been unconditionally loved and begins to get angry and upset and express that and perpetrate that on others, we have trauma. And that is something that is part of the lineage of humanity in our descent into matter in these last times of this epoch that we're living in on planet Earth right now. We are here in a transition time, and we are here to actually transmute all of that. And we do that through teachings and learnings and the ability to understand what this is all about, and that we can simply in our own individual lives choose to unlock and unblock those old patterns of the past survival patterns that we have, the past survival beliefs that we have that have come through our family lineages as a way of surviving when we didn't really know ourselves as divine beings. And we are now in a time where that is no longer going to serve us and isn't necessary. It doesn't feel like that, but that is the truth of the times that we're moving into. And so everyone can benefit from a sacred soul session because we all come with this shared human lineage of descent into what is density and separation. And we're coming back into the light, and we're coming back into our unified divine nature and the unified divine nature of all of humanity. So we do that by removing the blocks and allowing the light to stream in, and we get to see through our divine lens really the truth of who we are and what our divine nature is and how it wants to be expressed. And we create a plan for expressing that. Now, if you are experiencing anxiety and depression in your life, it's probably in part a result of blocks that aren't allowing you to live authentically. If you're going through lots of life change and feeling like you can't get through it, you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, not sure how to manage it, it's because change is out of survival pattern. Change is moving into thriving. And that sometimes can be hard to do alone and to be able to get yourself out of that space. So you would be a great candidate for a sacred soul session if you were making major life changes or even small life changes and feeling stuck about it all. If you are experiencing health problems, even small health issues, pain issues, if you're in the beginning of a a disease state, or chronic or even advanced. A soul session can help you see how the body, which is simply the repository of your unaligned divine nature, actually being experienced by your body. Once you can go back in and see where those blocks are that are blocking the flow of divine energy into your body, that is creating an inability for energy and actually oxygen and blood to circulate through your body and to keep the flow of everything going. Once that is observed by you, you can choose to release those blocks, those beliefs, those mental constructs that are served you in the past but no longer serve you now. And when you do that, you release them from your mind and from your heart, and you actually begin to release them from your body. And that's where healing can happen, physical healing can happen as well. So you would also be a good candidate for a sacred soul session as well. So that covers most people these days. And I would also say, if you're just generally wanting to move in a higher spiritual direction, more evolved, more expanded, and taking your life up to the next level spiritually, a sacred soul session can help you do that, because it can help you clear away maybe what aren't your primary blocks. You might have done a lot of work in that area, but we are refining ourselves now in these new energies. And so sometimes coming back in and doing refinement work, and I meet with a lot of people who say, oh, I've already dealt with that, or I thought I dealt with it. I thought it was gone. And yes, a lot of it was. But we have layers of this. It's like a spiral. People they refer to the onion, but I've always been referred to it as a spiral of effects, because we begin to have, as a child, the first incident maybe that begins this pattern of distortion that we continue to repattern and repattern. And as we do that, we have these layers and layers that we build up of the effluvia, of the density of our nature. So we're just kind of unwrapping and taking it all off. It's like unwrapping a big package, and we are the gift. We are the divine light. And when it all comes off, there we are. But we also know that as human beings, we need to repattern ourselves in positive ways. So we just need to not just let go of the old dysfunctional patterns and the distortion patterns, but we need to create positive, more divine patterns going forward. So part of the session is to support individuals to see new pathways of divine patterns that they might not have looked at before, because sometimes things don't stick because you've maybe stopped an old pattern or ended something that wasn't working, but you didn't really fully activate a new way of showing up, a new sacred, more divine way, and make the commitment to that. And sometimes not even knowing what that is. So a sacred soul session can help you in all of those ways. So I encourage everyone to explore that, and it can be done very simply and very easily. Most of my sessions now are usually an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and it's usually just one session where we can do a lot of work. I've been trained to work very deeply, quickly, and intuitively through all of my different trainings, and by my nature, actually. And I can very directly get to the issues that are concerning you, and we can move really quickly out and through that into the platform that allows you as an observer and a witness to release that old baggage that isn't serving you anymore, and to really look at creating a new way of showing up in the world, and really to feel and experience your higher, more divine self, and to create the truth and reality of that going forward for you. And we sometimes do, I've done a lot of life planning work with people in the past, and sometimes we create a really simple life plan. I often get a lot of information channels through me, and I say that I will channel often your higher self that is trying to get through to you. And because when we all are in our lower frequency selves, we aren't able to listen and hear that. That's why we meditate and we go into that higher platform of self, so we can begin to hear our higher self and our guides and source speak to us. But the ability to be able to get up onto that platform is something that you can learn to practice yourself. But when you're really stuck, sometimes you need someone to just help you get up there. So I'm available by phone for Sacred Soul Session. I do most of this over the phone. I do some in person, but because I work globally, phone works really well. We can dialogue, and I do a lot of listening and Q&A with you. So phone is really an effective way to do this work. And you can contact me through my own phone number, also my email. You can email me directly. You can go on my website, and I have a request form. Everything is done by appointment. So you just need to contact me, and we can talk about time, pricing, location, all of that when you feel called to do a Sacred Soul session. And I'm really looking forward to working with you. So in addition to my Sacred Soul sessions, where I work individually with individuals, I have been running women's groups for over 30 years in every place that I've lived. And they take different form depending on what the women's group is looking for and the times that we're in. But most recently, I've been involved in setting up Sacred Soul circles. And there are 2 steps to that process. It allows individuals to do, and we will process where everybody gets to do individual work. And then what I call collective work is really where the reflection of one another, as we come into the circle and share, we begin to see where there is the collective story that we're all part of. So we will talk about tools for going in and being able to learn how to identify and go deeply within yourself to discern that block, so you can get to the truth of what it is you really are challenged with and what you want to work on. And then we come back up again and we talk about tools. And I do a lot of teaching with my book. My book is called A Call to Sacred Living, and it's full of tools. It's a toolbox and a guide of hundreds of sacred practices I've learned and cultivated throughout my trainings and my teachings with my teachers and my own body of work and reading extensively over 30 years. And these tools are ones that I continually feed to people during that circle process afterwards to meet, how do we resolve challenges? How do we shift these blocks? And people get to see in the real time of their own experience with one another. And everybody has everybody else's block at some point. So even though you're looking at your one that you think is most relevant, everybody else in the circle also brings something that has been relevant for you or will be. And so you just walk away with individual work done and also a lot of new tools to be able to shift things in your life and to move forward in a more divine way. So we're in very interesting times on planet Earth, very exciting times. And this has been foretold for eons, that we are at the end of a giant epoch of descent into matter, moving back, and we've called it the ascension, but it's ascending back into the light from density. And we have all signed up to come during this time on planet Earth to actually move from the densest form into the lightest form as a potentiality for our own individual lives and as a collective. So we all signed up for it. We're all here, and we're here to do what we would call transmutation work, which we are in our own individual lives transmuting. But what is so valuable right now and what makes things so exciting is that we have the energies as a key player with us. We have our own impetus, we have our teachers, and so much knowledge out there as to how to do it. But the energies are the key player, and it was designed as such. It was designed so that when the 5th dimension, the new high frequency of the planet, which the planet has already taken on itself, and in the universal flow, we are moving into a new place in the universe as well, in a very ascended form. And so that is in play here, in addition to all of the mishigas that we see playing out in the material world on planet Earth. We have these new, and you'll hear physicists talk about, the frequency changes and the dynamics astronomically, et cetera, but spiritually, it really is a new template, and it's a new form of physics. And one of the old forms in regard to manifestation, which we talk about a lot, is that in manifestation, there was a delay in manifestation. You would think things in desire and they wouldn't come to pass. And that's because you weren't fully aligned. And it wasn't easy to get fully aligned with the divine to be able to create a no more divine outcome. But in the new energies that are divinely constructed, and they are of source energy, this fifth dimension is of a high frequency. It has instantaneous manifestation built into the operating system. And so when you move into that higher version of yourself, that more divine version of yourself, you actually get to access and utilize all of those new ways that the fifth dimension operates, which means you simply are, it's easy and effortless. You simply are creating your visions of what you want. You use your imaginal mind and your heart to play in your creation from your soul self. And new things come to you from the universe, and you simply step into them. And it's very instantaneous, it's miraculous, it's magical. That's how we would describe it in the lower frequencies, but it's totally a normal way of being in the fifth dimension. So it's great motivation to do work so that you can move into these new frequency fields and stay there as often as possible and play there, because it's very playful energies, very creative energies. And we've all been there. We've all been there. We've all defaulted into that space, or we've actually intentionally been able to place ourselves there, but haven't been able to stay in the past. The new energies are there, and they allow us to stay there. And that's the divine dispensation of our time, that we have these new energies to support us as we move ourselves into our divine template, as we raise our frequencies and we let go of our old limit beliefs and distortion patterns and say, no, I'm going to move into my divine self, my soul self. And then the magic begins. And it's very exciting. And it's really, really why we want to do this work right now.